Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Firsties. As always like to start my episodes by saying to anyone who's listening, watching, viewing, subscribing, doing all the things. It's always so funny doing this in front of the guests because it's like the first time you're hearing it, so you're just like, what? Anyways, thank you so much for watching, viewing, subscribing. I really do appreciate it. Please make sure you follow Firsties for short clips behind the scenes on Firsties Pod. That's Firsties Pod everywhere to get short clips and behind the scenes. So let's get into this guest. Now, I've said this before, but I'm not sure why I feel like this is going to be like the Seinfeld Netflix show, like comedians in cars getting coffee.
Okay.
Because I'm just attracting all the comedians, and I love it.
Comedians on couches getting water.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. We should have some Bizuneh here, and that will be a little bit. Yeah. So I have Biniam here. And this was, first of all, you just touched down quite literally 2 seconds ago.
Yep. I touched down 2 seconds ago
from LA.
I left this hoodie in the Uber.
Sure
I had
did.
to call the guy. He came back. He was like, see, that's why I gave you my number.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was telling him, I was like, it's a hoodie worth like circling back for.
They call it a luxury blink.
Ooh,
Have you ever seen the Instagram ads?
No.
It'll be like, you want a heavyweight luxury blink? I get so many crazy ads.
Yeah.
This worked on me.
And you
I bought it.
Yeah. Same.
But it's like, it was a good purchase.
Yeah. No,
know?
it's a solid hoodie. It's a solid hoodie. Especially the neckline. I'm very particular about the hoodie that I like. Yeah. The girls say the hood is hoodieing, and we appreciate it. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. The hood is hoodieing.
Yeah.
Okay.
The more you know, right? The more you know.
I wonder if anyone's ever said that about an actual hood. They're like, oh, that hood is hoodieing.
Right.
Like a place.
Yeah. Now I did a deep dive on your social media. You're a comedian, but you're leaning, like I thought you were a comic, but you identify yourself as a writer first.
I would say I like it all. Like
Okay.
I do all this stuff. I was just like, I'm money first right now is writing for TV. You know, that's how I like pay my rent mostly.
So
but
cool.
slowly over time,
Yeah.
I've started to like do more stuff and stand up and do more stuff like, you know, headlining around the country and stuff, doing colleges here and there. But it is, I think having the TV background allows me some like regularity, you know, with a paycheck.
Yeah, which is nice. You do need that steady paycheck. Yeah. So you were written for season 2 of Dave.
Mm-hmm.
You also performed on
3.
And I'm so sorry. Please, I'll add that to your resume.
Come on now.
You performed at the Netflix festival.
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you're on Comedy Central as well, or you've written, right?
I've done stand up on Comedy Central too. Their little like YouTube thing.
Yeah.
I have a set there.
Yeah. So what made you lean into, I mean, I guess because you're a writer, because all comedians are kind of writers because they write their jokes, I think. What made you lean into comedy?
So, you know how you were saying, like, you just went to Syracuse school and it was like mass media. This was a pre-couch conversation, but you guys can get the context. And
You're such a writer and you
said
just know how to, go ahead.
You said you loved it, right?
Yeah.
And some of it was like mass communication, like we're going to learn how to do prompter and do news type stuff. So at my high school, we had that. And so I was in the school news thing called RDTV, Red Devil Television. Shout out if it's still around. And they would just give us cameras and you could make whatever you wanted. And then it would get displayed to all the students like during third period or whatever. And then you could see them react to it. And there was no oversight. So I would just make like sketches. I would make stuff where I was like, it's crazy that the stuff I make now isn't that far away. Like I would make things where I'd be pretending to interview Obama. This is real. Except what I would do is I would take interviews that he had done on like the Daily Show or some CNN show. And then I would like make him answer my questions out of context as if I'd be like, we've got Obama via satellite. And then I would just be like, are you gay? And he'd be like, yes, I am, or something, you know, like, and I would just make him, and then I would see people laugh at that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, I like this thing where I'm like writing something and working on it hard and editing it. And then I get to display it and then get positive, whatever reinforcement. And then so stand up was just like a more immediate version of that where you get to make it up, whatever, you go and do it. And then you get the immediate feedback.
Yeah.
So, but it all feels kind of like the same thing. And I did theater too in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I was just about to ask, then how did you jump to, like, I feel like being when I think of writer, I think of writer's room, and it's completely different than like the comic on stage. It's like a writer's room is completely different than like being on stage, as far as like public speaking and like giving yourself emotionally to the audience.
What's funny is like if you're a stand-up, you're kind of doing an audition for your writing every time you're on stage.
Ah, okay.
So depending on how your stand-up is, like some people will watch someone stand up and go like, oh, that guy's a good writer. And then they might get asked like, do you have a packet, or like, do you want to submit for this late night show? Do you have a pilot, whatever, based on how they liked their jokes written in their act. And so I didn't go into it like necessarily being like, I want to specifically be a TV writer. I think I would just look at people like Donald Glover and Aziz and John Mulaney and these people, and I would just be like, oh, they seem like they do everything. I just want to do everything. And then it kind of just was like, oh, there's different ways to put out, like, oh, I could make a YouTube video. That's one thing. I can do stand-up. That's sharpening different tools that are all in the service of comedy.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to be good at all of it. Because I did theater, it was like, okay, I do this live performance. And I was doing those things for the school news. And then when I got to college, there was a comedy club that opened up like right near where, like in the same town as the college. And they did this thing where like you would go up and you do stand up, and whoever like got the most votes got to get paid to be the host for the weekend.
Okay.
And so the first time I did it, I brought all like my dorm people, and I was like super like memorized and whatever. And I won the thing. So the second time I was doing stand up, I was getting paid, and I was like, man, I need to drop out and move to New York. I'm Chappelle. You know, like I thought I was
Chappelle is crazy.
Yeah. I was like, I am literally the best.
Yeah. LA is calling.
And then I did it again, and it was like, it was like kind of good. You know, like I like realized it was like a little bit harder, but there is this thing where like the first time a lot of people do it, it's like you don't know what you're supposed to be doing. So you're just very free. And then
what a gift.
Yeah, you end up doing, it's like the beginner's luck type.
Yeah. Interesting.
So every time we do stand up now or anything really, you're trying to like forget all the stuff that you've learned so you can just go back to that.
Which can be tough. Wow.
Yeah.
Now if we could backtrack a little bit. So the podcast called Firsties, we talk about like that first gen experience a lot.
Yeah.
So before you even got into being a writer in comedy, like what was your upbringing like? Like what led you to that? Because as you know, like in our culture, like it's not like we come in numbers when it comes to comedy or being a creative.
Totally,
it's like,
totally.
But in hospitals, half the people are Habesha. You know what I mean? Like,
okay. Well, like, see, I have two older brothers.
Okay.
One is like 14 years older. One is 10 years older. I was an accident for sure. And I'm
glad you figured that out.
Yeah. I just accepted it. I was an accident they could afford. And my brother, the oldest one, he is a doctor. He's a physician.
Shout out to him.
My other brother was a professional runner. So they did the most Habesha shit you could do.
Oh my God. Your parents are proud.
So then by the time I came around, there wasn't a lot of pressure on me because they had already done it. And my parents were more Americanized because it'd been 10 years since my last brother. So they were less strict with me. And I also didn't want to be compared to like my brother. So I was like, man, he's already good at school. He's already good at athletics. Like I'm not going to be as good at any of that as they are, but I can do this other thing and be good. What's funny is that a lot of people who end up becoming comedians, they're not even the funniest in their family. They're just like the one who decided to try and make money from it, you know?
Interesting.
And
okay.
There would be a lot of times where like our family would be like, he's the comedian? Salu's the funny one though, you know?
You're like, all right, cool.
No, but I get it though. My brothers are hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm just the one who found a way to monetize it.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, you work on it so you get funnier and funnier. But I would say just like in our bones funny, definitely my brothers are funnier than me. But like I'm funnier than them now because I like have spent.
You perfected your craft,
you know,
or you're working on your craft.
Years and years being like, this is what I'm working on.
Interesting. It's funny that Dave, another comedian who came on, said the same thing. He's like, oh my God, my little sister is like, they're hilarious.
The funniest people are not comedians. They are people who like work at like the Sprint. You know, it's like some guy.
That
like,
is the realest thing ever. My day job, one of my coworkers, Tish, shout out to Tish. She's one of them, and she's not trying to be funny, by the way. It's her literally existing is the most funniest thing ever.
I talk about this all the time. Like you look at the Shade Room comments.
Yeah.
They are funnier than every comedian.
Oh God, that's so true.
I honestly believe this too, that like a random just like black dude off the street is funnier than a comedian who's white who's been doing it for like 10 years because
okay, why?
A lot of comedy comes from struggle because you have to like, you know, like whatever your thing is, like it doesn't have to be a black dude. It could be anyone who has struggled, but there just happens to be correlation with Black people.
Yeah,
and
historically,
you know, so there's also rich Black people who are not funny,
right?
You know, like,
yeah.
But let's say it could be a white trash person. It could be Indian immigrant. You have to find a way to live with the state of whatever your life is, whether that's economically or whatever else you're going through. And a lot of times you have to, like, you know, there's people roasting you. You got to roast back. You don't have money. You have to, like, find a way to, well, my clothes aren't going to be cool. How else can I stand out? You know? And that leads to, you have to make light of however terrible the situation is. So, like, that's why I read the Shade Room comments and I'm like, I write on TV and these people are funnier than the people in the writer's room with me.
Interesting.
But, like, they don't even, like, a lot of people don't ever get the opportunity, or they don't even know that it's a thing you could do. Because a lot of it's just like, is someone going to give you the chance, or, like, do you even know how to be in that pipeline, you know? And I think, sadly, a lot of people don't, but, like, a lot of people have the goods, you know?
Interesting. Wow, you're making me think, like, a million things. I have a million questions from that. Do you think funny comes from, like, I heard someone say, like, me being funny is, like, my lifeline. Like, that's how I survive.
Okay, this is what I think it comes
from. You know, the
from.
historical, or, like, people say, like, a lot of comics, they come from, like, really messed up backgrounds and childhoods. And like you mentioned, their imagination saved them from some messed up stuff.
I would say there's a couple different ways you can get to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, struggle is definitely, like, the unifying thing in all of it. But, like, it could be, say you're the youngest child, you feel like you don't have attention, or the middle child, sometimes that happens to them too. So you act out to get attention, or your family is always fighting. You're the one that tries to be funny to, like, you know, let's stop them. But then it's also like, if you're othered in any way, it could be you're Black at a white school, you're gay at a straight school, you're brown at a Asian school, whatever it is. I mean, brown and Asian, I guess they're the same thing, but there's a lot of debate over whether Indians are actually Asian. Woo! I think Indians are their own thing. Asians are, we know that. If someone says Asian, I'm not thinking about Indians, you know, like, and I think Indians.
I'm glad you got that off your chest.
Okay. So, you're brown at an Asian school, whatever it is that makes you a little bit different.
Yeah.
You then go inside. And so you become a little bit like, you become an observer, because you're not actually interacting. And when you're an observer, you start thinking about things of, like, why is that guy doing that? You have, like, an internal monologue, because you're not being present really. You're just like,
or included. Yeah.
You're, like, watching it on TV basically in front of you. And then that leads to, you know, sometimes that can lead to comedy. Sometimes that can lead to, like, you know, I'm going to be a fiction writer. It can lead to academia, but it leads you to, like, I think solitude and exclusion leads to art, because you have the time to think about your experience. Yeah.
Interesting. I've talked about it before, that, like, something that I've become obsessed with in my 20s is learning that whatever I went through when I was younger, whatever I was dealing with, I'm learning to turn, with that specific thing that happened, I got this quality from it, which when I was younger, I didn't understand, or I was upset, or whatever the case is. But then I have this, like, I'm self-sufficient, or I'm independent, and I have this quality now. And I find that a lot with comedians as well. Like, the way you're able to piece together a story, and it, like, some messed up stuff, I'm like, how can you make that funny? And then it does become funny. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, just the thing you said before of, like, this thing you didn't like before, like, now it's a strength. I think about that so often, of how, like, our greatest weaknesses are our greatest strengths, and vice versa. Like, one of my best friends, he gets mad at me a lot. And it's not my fault. It's not his fault. It's just that we perceive information differently.
Yeah.
Like, if someone said to me, damn, you look good today, I'll be like, okay, I'm popping. If someone said to him, you look good today, he would be like, so you're saying I look like shit every other day? And
He's one of those. Got it.
But he is so good at connecting dots. You get it?
Yeah.
So, like, the reason he thinks that is because he connects dots. He's the greatest writer I know. He's so successful at what because he can tell stories.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, someone who's amazing scientist like Oppenheimer or something, they can look at all these equations and be like, that leads to that, that leads to that. Oh shit, here's the bomb. But then at the same time, they see their wife come home late and they start going, oh fuck, she's cheating on me. You know, like you know, it's good and bad always.
Yeah.
You know?
So would you agree that that's kind of what Like when you're saying that, I'm thinking of how when I watched Dave Chappelle, which is my favorite comic, that his storytelling is essentially him connecting the dots and then getting us up to the finish line or a destination.
I mean, and to be a comedian or any type of artist, you have to be sensitive to the world around you. You're taking in things. But then that sensitivity comes with another side, which is you're a sensitive person too. You get your feelings hurt easily. You're curious about things. And I'm speaking generally, like anyone that's sensitive, you take in things, but then you also go like, oh, I don't like this. Or what are you trying to say? You know, you're curious enough to be like, wait, why does that work that way? But then you'll also be curious as to like things that may not be as helpful to you, you know?
Interesting.
So yeah, I see it. Yeah, it's always a double-edged sword. And I think that's fine, you know?
Yeah. Wow, yeah. Do you think, like, can you remember a memory when your, like, curiosity started? Because I do find that's a commonality with comedians, is, like, you guys are very curious. Like, whether you were a kid, were you a kid who was, like, really imaginative or?
Yeah, I mean, let me see. I would definitely be a kid who would ask a lot of questions. I remember, like, I would ask my brother so many questions, and my brother's 10 years older than me. And there would be times where he would just like not answer back because there'd be so many. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Well, why do you do that? What do that? And he would just be like, hey, think about that last question. I think you can answer it yourself. Cause I was just like
give me the answers.
Yeah. I mean, even now I would say like, if I want to, I could, you know, you go on a date with someone or you're like having like an interview or whatever it is, I could just ask them questions and they can answer, and they'd be afterwards like, oh my God, like I didn't even realize I didn't say anything. You didn't say anything about yourself. And I'm like, that's fine. Because I can actually be interested, and you know, I think I can be interested in another person, and just, I don't know, like, I don't know when it started, but I think part of it was like being othered, like, you know, a lot of Habesha or like first generation Africans, if they grow up in a place with like, let's say they're one of the only Africans and it's a lot of Black Americans, and you don't necessarily get Black culture in your household or whatever, depending on how you're raised. I grew up in Indiana, so you can imagine based on that and
Roger that, got it.
How my voice sounds. You know, so I went to high school. I was with all Black people. Before that, I hadn't been. We had moved to a new district, and I definitely went internal around that time. Maybe like 8th grade or so too. Yeah, 8th grade is when we moved. And I think it was the first time I like asked myself, oh wait, I was like, oh, I'm Black. And then I was like, what does it mean to be Black? And then people are calling me not Black. And then I'm like, wait, what makes me Black or not Black?
You're really speaking it.
Yeah. And then you're like, you start then looking over all of your actions and the way you dress and the way you talk. And then you're like, are those the things that make you Black? And you know, now it's like, I feel like the idea of Blackness is so wide now. Like you can go all the way from Lil Nas X to like Busta Rhymes, and all these people are Black, you know? But that wasn't the case before.
Oh, shit.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I think Don Glover did a lot for people, funny. Where it's like, oh, you can be like Don Glover, where you're Black, but you sound like you sound like you. You don't have to be like, oh, this is how Black people talk, or this, you know. But at the time that didn't exist. So I think around then I started asking a lot of questions of myself and others of like, why are they wearing that? And like, why? I remember this one time, this is right after I moved to the school in 8th grade. I was at lunch, and do you remember when there would be like 8th grade relationships where it would just be like, you would hold hands when you go to like the lockers from the bus, and then, but nothing else. So you wouldn't hang out outside of school. I had one of those. It's so real. This girl named Keisha.
Shout out to her.
She's dope. I hope you're well wherever you are, Keisha. Yeah. I hope you're doing well. Her friend, I was sitting by myself at lunch. Her friend came up to me and was like, hey, she thinks you're cute. And she was just standing back there like that one meme of the guy, my friend thinks you're cute. Like literally that meme. And then I didn't know anyone. I just moved to the school. I was like, sure, whatever. And then so we started dating, whatever that means at the time, which is just You walk from the buses to the lockers. You walk from the lockers to the buses.
Just breathing the same air.
And this guy who was like kind of this cooler dude who he played on the basketball team. His name was Darius. He had dated Keisha in the past, I found out after. So he was a little bit like, you know, about me, like a little bit like, who the hell, you know? And I remember one time I was at her locker before school started, and then he walked up and he was like, "You going out with this nigga?" And then it was like, everyone laughed. It was like, ah. And I remember just thinking, and she was like, "It's okay. It doesn't matter to me." But I was
shout out to her.
But I was thinking to myself, I was like, what doesn't matter to you? You know what I mean? I was like, what does that even mean? I was like, what am I missing? Like, what is making, Got it. Okay. I was like, what is the indescribable thing that makes me corny or not cool or whatever, you know? And that was like a thing. Right. And that was 8th grade. And I was like, you know, that kind of stuff made me kind of like definitely go inward. You still remember
that to this day.
I remember because you were, I think the things that mark us the most are embarrassment. You could probably remember like 10 embarrassing stories where your face turned hot.
Or like I fallen.
Yeah.
I said the wrong thing. I misspelled or I mispronounced a word.
Yeah. You said something to someone that you thought you were helping them, but really like, I remember one time I told a guy, I was like, "Oh, I think you got like some food right here." And he was like, "Oh, that's a birthmark."
Yeah, shoot me right then and there.
Yeah, I remember those things.
Kill me. Strike me right now, Lord. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know why. And then also it's like 10 years later when you're like making dinner, that memory just comes back. Like your brain just like attacks you. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. I could totally relate. Yeah, you feel
went
like
through
another.
That too in high school?
Yeah, you just feel like another.
Did you?
And different than yours, I was a freshman, my brother was a sophomore, my sister was a junior. We were really close in age.
Okay.
So the dating thing didn't really happen because my brother was always in school, so he would handle anyone who tried to come around me.
He didn't want you being happy?
What's happy when you're 14, honestly? A 14-year-old
I guess
girl.
there's not too much
stuff.
Not too much goodness that can come as dating when you're 14.
Yeah,
exactly. Other than just like feeling cool.
Right.
Maybe helping your confidence a little bit.
Yeah, but even that, it's like I felt like an other because I was like not like what was homecoming like and prom. Like I wanted all the like American millennial or things that you just do, and I still did that, but
were all your best friends the other first gen people?
Absolutely, and those girls right there, and they're still my best friends. Yeah.
You can't see this, but it's a picture of someone who looks white and another black. Wait, what's the girl in the middle?
And she's half white, half Hispanic.
Okay, yeah.
And then my other friend who's been on, Lena, she's Habesha as well. But I was lucky enough to be kind of in a melting pot. The county was very much Caucasian, but then our school was very much a melting pot, which was nice. But same thing, like we talk about a lot where you just feel like the other, where like the texture of my hair, what I wore, my mom cooking the night before, and then my bag smells like onions or whatever the case is. Now looking back, I wouldn't change anything because I think our culture is like so rich and awesome. But at the time when you're 14,
I mean, I think about this all the time that like being a black immigrant is unique to all immigrants to American immigrants at least, because there was already this idea of what being a black American was.
Right.
Versus like with every other, person immigrating here in the 80s or 90s or whatever, there wasn't like, oh, there's already Indian Americans and you're a fob Indian. That wasn't like, that's maybe newly starting now, but for our parents, it was like they get here, they have no idea about black culture. People are looking at them as black people who are part of black culture. So someone could be racist to my dad and he wouldn't even know the stereotype about him. Mm-hmm. Someone would be like, "I bet you like fried chicken, don't you?" And he'd be like, "Yes, I like it."
Yeah.
He doesn't know. He'd be like, "Yes, it's good."
That's a very real scenario. Yeah.
So like that is really interesting. Like having expectations to fit into a like stereotype or these traits that you have no idea about. And the cognitive dissonance of that, I can't imagine what my parents went through,
I have so much empathy now. Yeah, I'm telling my little cousins, I was like, you'll understand, because I was them at one point. And I think just getting older, seeing that they're getting older, I'm like, life is short, first of all, but also like they did the best that they could with the information that they had.
Yeah.
And we turned out okay, and I had a great childhood. But yeah, I'm like, I don't know how I struggled trying to figure out my environment. And you're trying to lead a child as well. Like, I'm looking at you for questions. They don't even know the answer. They're just like, you know what I mean? Like, it was crazy. Yeah.
It's why, like, I think as growing older and then, you know, being an adult who has to like pay bills and do whatever. And I sometimes will just imagine, I'm like, wow, what if someone today was like, you have to move to Malaysia and learn their language and find a job and try to get into their society. I'd be like, I don't want to do that. Also, like, that
Double
seems
and
so...
give it to the next person.
Yeah. And also, like, you know how people are, they'll I remember just as a kid, like, you know, my mom would say grammar wrong or pronounce a word wrong. Like, she would say parmesan instead of parmesan, or she would be like, I put it in the other house, but she meant room. Those kind of things. And I would like correct her, like, Mom, it's this, not that. And I was such a brat, but like, I'm like, man, if I had to learn, I'd be the worst at fucking, I had to speak Japanese right now. Like, the fact that our parents know, you know, Amharic, Tigrinya, and English, and some, you know, like, it's crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also just how hard they work to maintain our culture in the home amongst all these other things that are happening. Again, hats off to them. Yeah.
So, like, do you feel like you're like, you know what? I need to marry an Habesha man so I can keep the culture strong?
I've talked about this before. Great question.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, why wouldn't I want my child? Because here's the thing: is I've had friends, I've had my nieces and nephews who they do go through like a little bit of an identity crisis, because the world, you have to be something. You can't be both. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And that can be very confusing for a child. So if I could have it my way, I obviously would want them to be just 100% Ethiopian, but I can't choose who I connect with and who I end up having children with.
You know what's,
truly.
It's a
good question.
You can.
I mean, you can, yes, but it's not going to be like, I have that vision, so I have to marry it. And my parents are very much open to this. They just said faith-based, and that's my qualification as well. Faith-based. Everything else is,
See, mine is just based.
Yeah.
You got to be faith-based.
Got it. No.
Like, my parents, so both my brothers are married and divorced. Neither of them was Habesha.
Okay.
People they married. So my dad will always, like, my dad's a funny guy. He makes jokes, but he'll be like, you know, you're our only hope to marry like a Habesha person.
Quickly, did you feel like an only child? Because you were so far removed
somewhat,
from you?
yeah,
okay,
because
gotcha.
by
Just
the time
curious.
I was like, when was my brother left out of the house? He's 10 years older. So by the time I was 8, he was gone.
Gotcha, okay.
And my older brother had been gone. He was like an uncle more.
Right. Okay.
So I definitely, you know, I'm on Jebana. I've been like, let me see if I actually try the thing.
Yeah.
You know, what it's like. I have that bit that you heard where I was in Ethiopia and I was using the apps and whatever. All the girls' pictures were like coffee and flowers and stuff, because there's a lot of shame around it.
That's so funny.
But yeah, I think I'm like, okay, who would I actually commit to?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I could see myself committing to a Habesha person because there would be so much that she wouldn't have to explain. It would just be like, oh, we get it.
Yeah.
Kind of. But I'm like a weird Habesha person in that, like, I'm like just doing stand-up comedy and I'm traveling, I'm doing media stuff, which is not very
Yeah, so I want you on the show because I was like, this does not happen, I promise you.
Yeah. So it's like,
yeah.
It would have to be like a very, because I've dated Habesha people, but a lot of times our lives don't exactly align, or sometimes our values don't align, or there's like, they're more faith-based, you know? And then I'm like, I don't go to church, you know? So it's like, I'm not saying that's the only thing like you're saying. It's like, that would be cool if it lined up.
Yeah.
Great. But if, you know, the only thing I'll cross out is albino. No albinos. I'm joking. Albinos, I love you. You guys are killing it in the modeling world right now, so you can take that. You know. But no, I think I'm open to whatever. Yeah. But that would be cool.
Okay. Now, because you mentioned that, like, literally you just touched down in DC, like, quite literally he brought his suitcases in here.
I'm moving in.
Literally. So I'm guessing you're very busy?
Yes.
Okay, so do you make time for, because I'm learning with creatives, it's just a lot of like the hustle mentality, especially being a first gen as well. We just kind of get that from our parents. Do you make time for your personal life? So you are on the dating apps. and you go on dates and you go live like experiences?
I mean, I would say that it is definitely secondary. It's kind of like for fun. A lot of times I just do it to see who matches with me. You're just like, oh, this person thinks I'm hot. Cool. Let's never speak. You know, like
that's wonderful for the girl.
I mean, but sometimes they don't speak either, you know? That's true. I'm like, hey, if you want to talk, message me. But then sometimes, you know, same thing. Like sometimes someone will message me and I'm just like, I don't know. And I don't message back. But same thing too. If I message someone, they don't, you know, it's very like, it's so, what's the word? Ephemeral. It's just like, it doesn't really mean anything until you meet someone in real life. So I feel like no one can get mad at each other over a dating app not responding, because it's like, it's basically a stranger.
Yeah, like don't take it too seriously.
I think where I'm at right now, because I'm so focused on the career stuff, is like if there was someone whose life kind of aligned with what I was already doing, and they don't have to change themselves too much, I don't have to change myself too much, and we can get to know each other through that. Like it's like, oh, they live close to me. Oh, we're kind of free at the same times. Great. But I don't know that I'm willing to like sacrifice stuff yet. Maybe once I got to know someone more and it was like, oh, this is getting, you know, it's like, oh, I want to do this. And it doesn't feel like a sacrifice because you like want to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been a thing in the past where, oh, you, like, what is it? Yeah, I'm just busy. So it's like, and you know, am I going to make time? And
yeah, I mean, it sounds like what you mentioned. It's just secondary.
Yeah,
right now, which is, there's nothing wrong with it. You know what's so funny though, is that when a guy says that, it's like, yeah, he's busy. When a girl says that, they're like, girl, what?
I hear
it's
that.
The most frustrating thing.
Well, especially like family and other men too.
What do you mean other men? Other men?
Like when who is having that reaction?
Oh, family members.
Okay.
To me,
definitely.
Just be like, oh, she doesn't know yet. And then other men is like they either don't believe me or they think something else is going on. It's the most sexist thing ever. I'm fine with it. It's what, like, I'm still living my life.
I know a lot
but
of
it's
stories.
more admirable for you to prioritize your career and your passions versus
like a man at 28 who's focusing on his career is like,
well,
wow, he's going hard. He's trying to get rich. A girl who's single at 28 is like, oh, is she gay? Oh,
or what it's,
Oh my God, what is going on? You know, like, and I think it's because it is a sexist thing. They think like, they think women are all just like obsessed with romance, and it's like that your dream is like a nice marriage, like a nice wedding.
Yeah.
You're dreaming about your wedding dress. Some people, sure. Yeah. But like, I'm sure a lot of people not too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then also you could also have both as well. Like they're but I'm also finding that in this creative space, like we talked about this off camera of how it's very much like essentially a one woman show. I do have some people who help me out, and that takes a lot of my time. And this is like my side hustle versus like I have a full-time job as well.
That's why I think like the apps are good because they will, especially as they get better, I'm sure the algorithm will get so good that it will just like if there will be some newer one that comes out that uses AI, and what it'll do is it'll be like, we look through all of your searches, all of your texts, all of your phone calls, and this person actually has the same kind of schedule as you. We look through your calendar and they have like the same interests, and they also are looking for the same kind of whatever. And we just gave you this match. You guys should go on a date. And then it'll just be like, okay, like technology can make things simpler, but, and some of that works, I'm sure. But the other part is like, you don't really know if there's a spark or something until you meet in actual real life.
That's what I'm saying.
So it could be so good on paper, and then you meet in real life, and you're just like, yeah, this isn't.
It isn't, yeah. And it just takes, it sounds corny, but I just feel like what we just said with AI just takes the magic out of it. I'm like, wait, what? Just because we're compatible, because we can have lunch at the same time doesn't mean we're like compatible.
But that's a big part of
it. Do you know what I mean? Well, yeah, proximity is a major one.
Proximity and time.
Of course.
I swear, like,
but it just sounds like right now you're not willing to split your time right now. Like you don't want to work for it. That's literally what I'm hearing right now. You're like, I'm not working for it.
But you know what they say though is like, if you meet someone that you think is worth it, then it won't feel like work.
Right.
Do you believe that, or do you feel like no, it's always going to feel like work?
I mean, a relationship is work.
Yeah.
It is. I feel like my older self will be looking at me like, girl, yeah, relationship is work. I've also never been in a relationship, so I should probably put that out there. I do think, I mean, even like my friendships, I've had friendships for over 14 plus years. life happens. One person gets in a toxic relationship. She changes for a couple of years. I have to be patient during those seasons of her life.
Yeah.
One person is fighting addiction. We have to be patient with that. You know what I mean? Like I have my ish, so it does take work. So I choose to be friends with my friends every single day. So I do think relationships are work. But I like how you're honest you're just not willing to put in the work right now.
Yeah.
Unless it like perfectly falls into, which is very rare. You're just like, I'm married to the game and I'm married to what I want to do for right now.
And I think it's like I've seen what it's like when I'm not present in something and I'm trying to do both. And then you're just doing a bad job at both things.
Which is unfair to the person and yourself.
Yeah, because then you're like, man, I could have done so much better on this work thing. And then you're like, also like, they're mad at me because I'm not hanging out with them enough. And then you're like, well, why don't I just do good at one thing?
Yeah.
And then it's like, as a man, we're lucky that we can just put it off and then be like, yeah, I'm 37 now. I'm ready to finally blah,
Yeah.
And then women, it's like, well, if you want to have babies, then you gotta do it. Yeah, it's not fair.
I saw the craziest thing the other day that was like, I always ask my male friends and cousins for their perspective, but it was like, are you the one, or at the time that you met this one girl, you just decided that you were ready to get married? Like, it's not necessarily more romantic. It's just at that time that you met that girl, you finally decided yourself, I'm open to marriage now. You know what I mean?
I think it's more, I guess you can't say one or the other, but I think that happens a lot. Like I've heard this comedian, I don't know who it is, but I've said it so many times. It was some like woman and she's on stage and she was like, ladies, there ain't no such thing as a perfect man. There is just a perfect time. And everyone's like, yeah, because it was like, there's something true about that. Like, like you just at a certain point decide, and I have friends like this. Like I have friends who like, they're like 20, whatever. Like I knew them when they were like 25 or something. And there's a woman and they're like, oh, I need a man who's 6'3", makes this much, is this race or whatever. And then they get to be like 30 and they're like, actually now I just need a man who's 5'10". He's, like their thing goes down because they get more realistic about like,
what are we actually talking about?
Yeah. Like you're like, what actually matters? Do these aesthetic things really matter?
Yeah.
And what are the chances of me finding someone who matches in these emotional ways and the faith-based ways and all these things, who also happens to be 6'3",
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God I didn't end up with the list that I had when I was like 22 or 20, like, cause you know what I mean? Like you change every day.
You gotta know.
It was all like something that I really am really like leaning into now is just, if there's friendship there, which just sounds so corny, but like truly, and really one of the things is laughter.
I think that's what you're mostly going to be doing, is just like being around each other.
Do you like each other?
Yeah. That's like the main, cause like how much of a relationship are you guys actually having sex? Maybe like someone did the math on it, probably like 0.2% or something.
Yeah. There's
most of the time,
much other stuff. Yeah.
You're like driving to the wedding that you're late to, or you're like cleaning the house, or you're like at your friend's birthday. It's like stuff like that. And it's like, who do I want to be at all these situations with? Right.
Yeah. I imagine it in the way that like I have really rich friendships around me, male and female. And when I know I'm grabbing dinner with them on Friday, like I genuinely am so excited to connect with them. And it's because I know when I'm in their presence, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to feel good about myself. They're going to hold me accountable. It's not just like, they're like, Mila's the best, like they hold me accountable. We're going to laugh. It's always, they're all givers and not takers. And I'm also going to that dinner in that same way. And so I'm like, if I could get that in my partner, that would be amazing.
You just need to choose one of these friends.
Yeah. See, the thing is about that is, it's tough because, I mean, I'm sure some could get out of the friend zone, but as of right now, there's
like, what is that? Like, cause a lot of times there will be women. I mostly hear from women. I don't hear this story from men, but men are the people they're talking about. So it must exist. But I hear a woman going like, yeah, we were friends for years. And then I don't know what happened. Like one day it just kind of happened. And my best friend is now my husband.
Yeah.
You hear these kind of stories and I'm like,
so do I.
What was that? Cause the thing everyone hates is that if you've been friends for like 5-6 years, you know each other well, you're cool, maybe you both find each other attractive. No one wants to be the one to like say something, because what if you make it weird because the other person doesn't feel that way?
Or you read it wrong, or like rejection is like, all that.
I mean, there's ways to kind of like test the waters.
Yeah.
But with your friends that you're saying are in the friend zone, what does that mean to you?
I think for me, it's I very much like to get to know the person, because I think I've been on the other side of like I thought a guy was great, and then we go on a date, and then I think he acted like the guy that he thought that I thought I would appreciate, and it ended up just being like an asshole. Like whether he wanted to be showboaty with his money, or like how he treated the staff, of like he wanted to be more like assertive, and I'm like, you could just chill. And then weeks later when we were all hanging out, I'm like, where was this guy? Like, this is cool, and we're finally friends, right? And then the other thing is just either our faith doesn't align, because that's really important in my life. So not to be harsh, but I cut that off immediately, because why do we have to get to know each other? That's the most important thing in my life. Okay. So I don't want to waste his time or mine. And then the others is either just like we have mutuals that it's all in the friend group as well.
Oh, and that would make it weird, because you don't want to like...
It just makes it weird, and also there's so many people out there. Why leave your home. You'll be fine.
I honestly, look, I can argue both ways.
Okay.
I don't know which... I think the way I practice is like this Baby Keem song where he's like, I'm trying to fuck a bitch that no one knows. Mm-hmm. Have you heard that lyric?
Yeah, I have.
And I think about that lyric all the time, because I'm like, yes, I don't want there to be any weirdness. If this doesn't work out, we'll never see each other again. Mm-hmm. You don't know my friends. I don't know your friends. But then on the other side, how do you grow intimacy other than being friends and being around each other?
Yeah.
That's why so many friends end up dating, or coworkers. Right?
Coworkers is a big one.
Yeah. Coworkers, because it's like they're not necessarily in your friend group, but you have to see them over time.
Proximity time that we were talking about earlier.
It's like we're like lunch hour. Yeah, like a song is playing on the radio a bunch, and at first you don't like it, but now it's like it's playing so much that you're like, I know the words, and that's kind of like,
I guess I like it.
Yeah, you're like, well, this guy is at my work all the time, so then I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You know, it's just like. Here's my problem with dating sometimes is like, and maybe one of the reasons why dating at Habesha seems so attractive to me is that I don't want to start something that I know is going to eventually end. I don't want to like commit to something when I can already see that it's going to end. That feels unethical to me.
Why do you think it's going to end? Let's unpack that.
Sometimes you just have a feeling, or you just kind of know, like, why
is this not the first time a Habesha guy has said this to me?
I think you just know sometimes, and I won't start that. But there are other people, I've heard women say this before, where they're like, oh yeah, this is like a starter guy, or like, oh yeah,
starter guy is crazy.
I've heard that before. I've heard, yeah, you know, I'm dating him now, but we're not gonna, you know, like people okay with the idea, and to me that feels unethical, because it means that, are you guys on the same page about that? Does he think you guys are gonna get married?
Right.
And you're like, oh, this guy. But I've heard people say that, and then they keep on dating for like years and years. So I'm like, insane. Oh, maybe you were just like trying to protect yourself and saying that. But
interesting. Okay.
So sometimes and this is very like black or white. I'm like, man, I don't want to get someone all super involved and happy and whatever, because there's a part of me that's like a little bit like, oh, I can see, like, you know, your faith-based thing.
Yeah.
Like there might be something in there that I can just point out that is like, this is going to be a thing that makes us not go all the way. But I like hanging out with this person. I'm attracted to this person. We could send each other the same memes and laugh. And, but this thing makes me not feel like this is going to be forever. I'm kind of like, let's just stay in this category of like situationship, because it feels less mean. And I've even heard people say this, which to me is crazy. My brother told me this one time. He was like, you should get in a relationship because you've been independent for so long that if you don't practice it, you will not be able to make compromises because you're so used to getting everything your own way. And I was like, okay. So then I met this girl, perfect on paper, beautiful. Mm-hmm. She was an architect. Like, who even is an architect? That's like a movie job, you know? And then,
whoa, that is a movie job.
It's like a job of like, there's always like some cool girl in a movie as an architect.
Yeah.
But this girl actually was one.
Have I ever met an architect? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
She did yoga. She was great. And I was like, okay, I'll commit. Whatever. Let's be exclusive. Let's do the thing. Let's go for it. And I was like, kind of what you're talking about. Like, you can choose it. And then it's a choice. So I was like going, but okay, I'm choosing to be the thing. But the feelings that I was supposed to feel of like, oh, I am so, it didn't really come. And we ended up not staying together. And ultimately it felt kind of cruel that I even did that. Cause I was like, why did I enter this thing? One, because my brother told me practice on another human being who doesn't know their practice.
It sounds unfair.
Yeah, it sounds crazy. But people say that. They're like, yeah, but the other argument on the other side is they'll go like, well, every relationship ends, whether by breakup or death. You know, you're going to end up whatever, right? So most relationships end by breakup. So it's okay that it might eventually end. Just commit for now. You don't have to think about if you're going to end up married. Just think if you're going to end up together next week. And that is the healthy way. And I'm like,
whoa.
I'm like, okay, because ultimately, all we have is right here and now. So if you can have fun with somebody right here and now, how much do you need to think about like, well, do our families align and does this align and does it, you know? Because both my brothers are divorced. They're both married for 10 years. They got married, those people, thinking they were the ones. So I'm just kind of like, I'm a little bit maybe, what's the word, cynical about the idea of like, well, this is it, you know?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, 50% of marriages end in divorce or something now? So it's like.
It's probably more now.
So this is my thing I think we should do. It sounds like a joke, but it actually is real. It's kind of funny, but it's real.
I love the disclaimer again.
I think we should do marriage like NBA contracts. It should be like, okay, we got a 4-year deal. Okay? We're going to see if we want to renew after 4 years. If we don't want to renew, you be a free agent, you go off to the Mavs.
Hilarious.
You know? But if you do want to renew, we'll have another little party. We'll invite our friends, and that strengthens us. And because you know your term is coming up, there is a little bit more work you put in. There's a little bit more like, oh, we got to stay focused on this. Oh, man, my contract's coming up. But if it's just like, well, it's forever, stop trying. You're like, this is good. I don't have to do anything. We are married for life.
Which is so not true, though. I think it's because the misconception is people think marriage is a finish line.
I'm just saying,
quite literally the opposite.
I'm just saying there can be, that happens a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where men, you know, and women both will go like, well, I don't have to be the thing that they want. Like, you start treating them like.
Take them for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really a human experience. I think that's just human beings being like, no one, it goes to both sides, and it's very, very common. I could see why you're hesitant because of to be frank, like the divorce around you and, you know, the stats and stuff, like people are not staying together, and we're also not getting together at like an alarming rate. We're not having families at an alarming rate.
But the opposite side of that is that, well, if we're going to break up anyway, probably, why not just get married? Because you can have fun 6-year marriage.
That is such a crazy statement.
You know? And you get to have a fun party.
That is crazy.
And then I've heard people say this, but I know people that are divorced, and this is comedian Pete Holmes. He says, a lot of people want to talk about divorce as a failure. I talk about it differently. I say I successfully completed my marriage.
Interesting.
We had our time together.
Yeah, you did your run.
And now we're, like LeBron did his run with the Cavs.
Yeah,
he did his run with the Heat. Now he's with the Lakers. Each of them were good on their own. He doesn't, every time he enters with a new team, he might have said this when he was joining them, but he doesn't have to go like, this is where I'm going to be forever, because we all know players can get traded.
Mm-hmm. You're really saying you could get traded.
Yeah. What do you think of my thing? Like, I know I'm being funny with the basketball metaphor, but like specifically of the idea of, because people do renewal of vows. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
But what if you decided, after 3 years, and we're going to have, you know, almost like a job, like quarterly check-ins, whatever. We're going to see if this still makes sense. And if it doesn't, and we break up, it's because it was on a timetable, and and it's not like this, fuck you, I do, you know, it's very like, well, this just.
Yeah, shake hands.
Both parties did not come to an agreement on this.
Yeah, right. I think the way you painted it is just really hilarious.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I've actually heard that before. I do have to say that a lot of what I'm learning about relationships and everything like that. I had to unlearn some stuff from like my environment, and like I love a rom-com and movies and media. It's just I know that just is ingrained in me, and some things are just like unrealistic. I do have to say, because I'm a faith-based person, there's just certain things that
What does that mean when you say that?
that I believe in Jesus.
Okay.
Yes. And that I'm a Christian. All right, guys, we are back. That was just a shameless plug. Now I do want to get into why you're here. So literally you just flew in. You have 2 shows tomorrow and Saturday. So May 24th and 25th at the DC Comedy Loft.
Yep.
Trying to sell it out. First of all, have you been to DC before?
I have.
Okay, but you haven't performed in DC.
Have I performed? I have, actually. I opened for this comedian a couple months ago, Beth Selling. I was her feature act at the Arlington Draft House.
Oh, okay.
But this is my first time, like, and then before that,
that's right, you're headlining. Yeah.
I co-headlined with my friend in like 2017 at this same place, the DC Comedy Loft. And this is the first time that I'm like, oh, it's just, I'm the headliner. I have my friends opening and stuff, but like I'm the only one billed as the.
And how long is your set for this one?
I'm allowed to do 60, 45 to 60. Yeah.
Oh, you're doing a show.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Excuse me for not knowing, but when I go to shows, like I've gone to Benny's show before and Dave's show, it's like they're headlining, but it's 30 minutes, it's 20 minutes, and then and it's still impressive.
Yeah.
But you're doing a full hour.
Yeah,
that's kind of insane.
That's
a Netflix special.
I've only started doing that more recently, like where I've had the time to, because like only like last year did I start headlining, and it would kind of be like, because I'm not like famous, but my agent, like they rep me for writing, and then I also have a guy there who's my stand-up guy, and he started giving me the dates when other people would like back out. They'd be like, hey, I can't do this date anymore for New Year's Eve. And then he would hit me up. He'd be like, you want to go to Plano, Texas and do the New Year's Eve weekend? I'm like, sure. And just doing this over the past, and I did that in Canada too last year, in BC, British Columbia.
Okay.
House of Comedy, great club, book me again. I got to like stretch, and because in LA, you'll get to do 15, 10, sometimes at the most 20. Only on the road do you get to do like an hour. And I was just in Hawaii this past week.
Amazing.
I was doing 40 to, I think I did 40 on one show. I did like 56 minutes on the other show that we did. And yeah, because I think ultimately the goal with, doing stand-up is like, you want to be able to put out a body of work. And so being able to do that long and still have strong material the whole time and keep a through line with the crowd, it's like, that's what I think is the best part of it. Like if you can do that, you can be good.
Yeah, I just admire your work, because the reason why I love comedy so much, I've said it before, is because to this one person sharing their story or their trauma or whatever is relatable, to make all these people come together and laugh at something at the same exact time, at the same exact thing, it's pretty, I think it's genuinely magic. Like
it is a trick.
It's amazing. No, it's amazing.
It is a magic trick, because the trick is that you set the settings for it. So it's like dark, I'm raised above them, light is on me, they can't see each other, so they're not like self-conscious about laughing. You try to do a comedy show in the light room, doesn't work half as good.
That's so terrifying how I think about it.
And then they kind of become one thing because of just like weird mob mentality type stuff. Like the energy of the crowd as a unit can be like, everyone is just like, oh, I'm laughing, I don't know what, and
it's contagious.
Yeah. There's just something about like groups. And it's so much funnier. Like you go to a real show, you watch it, you're like, whoa. And then you watch that same thing on video. It can still be kind of funny. It might give you like a, but you might type a LOL, but you're not really, but then you're there live. There's something about the energy.
It is.
So.
Yeah. It's a real like human experience. So I commend you on that. That's really, really, that's really dope. Now, how long did it take you to put like an hour? Is this like your year's body of work? How long does it take you to put an hour together? Because I'm guessing you're talking about your experience.
I mean, this is like, there's so much stuff that I've written and I used to do and I don't do anymore. I don't know how much material I've had over the years, but I've been doing it since I started when I was 18.
Yeah.
Now I'm 34. So that's like 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So, or not 16, 15. I took years off here and there, like in college and whatever, but It's been like way over 10 years. And so I have a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff I do now I've written in the last 4 or 5 years or something. Because you just get better, and then you go like, oh, I don't even.
That was trash.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like you probably look at your first podcast, and you're like, damn.
Oh my God.
Like what the hell is this? I gotta take this off.
Yeah.
You know?
And then in a year, this will be like, what is this? I'm joking.
Oh no, this will be good forever.
Okay, got it.
This is gonna blow up your podcast.
I'm surprised
remember?
You said that.
Oh yeah, there's no expiration date on my content. It's always good.
Amen to that.
But yeah, so yeah, it's just kind of a rolling thing where, oh man, I got this new joke, still doing this joke from 6 years ago, but I can mix it with this and I can rewrite it. You're constantly like just making things better, kind of adding it a little bit. Maybe there's something I've been doing for a super long time, but it's evolved over time. Yeah. So it's kind of amorphous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like what's your goal with comedy? Like
I want to take over the world.
Essentially.
I'm joking. No, I just want to be able to like do whatever I want. Kind of like artistically.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this makes sense to do as like I love stand-up because it's so immediate. I love filmmaking because you can make things, like it takes way longer, but you can make things that are, they defy what people think is possible. Or you can in the same way that with stand-up, you're kind of manipulating emotions, but you can do it on such a higher level with stories that are on screen. You can make someone fly or have them shot through the chest and it looks real, and the people watching it, they feel those visceral things. So that's really cool.
Just crying on this couch. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've watched a bunch of things on here, right? And so I guess I just want to be able to do all that stuff, and then get to the point where it's like, oh, like, because I've done some good stuff, I can, put my name behind other people's stuff and produce things for other people. And, yeah, I just want to keep doing all of it. Just getting better. I think I just want to get better and keep improving.
Good answer, yeah.
That's really what makes you keep going. It's not like I think a lot of times when people start this stuff, I felt this. Yeah. You have to have like a mental breakdown and then kind of realize like, oh, this is bad. And then you either quit or you do it again, but in a different way. The mental breakdown comes when you like kind of achieve some of the stuff that you wanted to achieve. And then you're like, oh my God, I feel the same. I don't feel different. I don't feel better. Nothing has changed. Now I just have less friends because I was so laser focused, or my connections with my family aren't as good. Like you go like, what have I sacrificed to be at this? And then you go like, okay, do I like this thing for the thing itself and the act of doing it and the practice of it? Or do I like what I'm getting from it? Like acclaim or clout or whatever. And if what you're doing it for is the clout part or like the achievement part, the gas will run out because that is temporary. It's fickle. It goes away. It's never enough. But if you're doing it because you're like, oh, I just want to make this joke really good, or like, I want to be the best of my potential. I want to reach my potential. Then there's like no ceiling because you can always get better. And what's cool about comedy, unlike something like trying to be a distance runner, like my brother was, he was a professional runner for New Balance up until he was 31. And then started having back problems and injury stuff. And he had to stop because that's kind of like the peak for distance runners. Like you're 30, you're 31, 32.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You usually don't get any faster after that. With comedy, as long as you don't get Alzheimer's or like get a brain injury or something, you can just keep on getting better even into old age. And same with writing, same with like producing. As long as your body and mind are okay, you can be like 75 years old and still be making observations and be better. And I really like that.
Good answer. I was always just ending the podcast. I always ask like, what advice do you have for like first gens that are watching? You basically answered it.
Yeah. Just like to do something because you love doing it and you want to have mastery rather than this will look cool. My parents will like this. My friends will think I'm cool. I'll get bitches if I do this. Because ultimately all those paths lead to disappointment, sadness, depression.
That part.
Yeah.
That part. That's really, really, yeah. That's a great way to end this episode.
Disappointment, sadness, depression. That's the name of the episode. I think that's a great title.
I might actually do that. No, I want people to click it so they can go to the link.
That might make them click it.
That's actually, you're so true. You're right. You're right.
It's like that other, what do they call that? Where it's like,
that's so true.
There's a word for it where people want to click because they're like, whoa, this seems bad. Or like, oh man, I'm going to feel good about myself because they're going through shit.
God, Jesus.
That's why people like Shade Room and shit.
Yes, I mean, you're right. That's the world that we live in. You're right. Like,
look at all this drama they're going through that I'm not going through.
Yeah, and then just turn over and go to bed.
At least that's not me.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like I mentioned before, guys, I will link below where they get tickets. He will be at the DC Comedy Loft 24th and 25th. Do you know the opening time?
Yeah, so
if you want, just go ahead and plug yourself.
7 and 9:30. Might be 9:45. It's like 7 and either 9:30 or 9:45. 2 shows, Friday, Saturday. My opener is Andrew Lopez, who's my good friend. He's been on that show, The Bear. He's on that show, Platonic, on Apple. Really good writer. And then D. Ahmed is the host, local Somali comedian, very funny. Might have some surprise pop-ins. You never know.
Okay.
You know, we might have what's the name of the guy from the Warriors who plays here now and he looks all sad all the time?
You're asking the wrong one.
Oh, you don't follow
flattered
basketball?
That you think I would know that.
Jordan something.
Jordan
Poole. We might have Jordan Poole drop in.
Jordan Poole
might come
Literally
in.
Just learned who he is. Jordan Poole.
He might come in. We both have the same haircut now because he doesn't get lined up either. You know.
Okay.
Yeah, you never know. So hopefully I see you there at the Comedy Loft, Friday, Saturday, 24th, 25th.
May 24th, May 25th, guys. I'm going to try to come to the show. I have to work something out, but I might actually try to come to the show.
I'm glad you might actually try to come.
I committed to something, but I'm going to try to get out of it.
You said that in the most like, I might actually try, like 3 qualifiers. So I'm like, okay, I don't have my hopes up. Yeah. You know? I could. Will try my best. There's a joke one of my friends has, this guy, Noah Findling, where he's like, nowadays, nobody like commits to anything. Like, I don't even know what friendship is because he asked a friend if they wanted to do something. And the guy was like, I could be down. You could be down.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
Just say, yeah, you know.
I could be down.
Everyone's like, there's too much shit to do. I could, maybe, possibly.
I could be down. I'll let you know. Yeah. So I don't know how many times I make plans when I have all the energy, and then when the event comes, I'm like.
See, that's why I'm that's why I'm a day of person. I'm like, hit me on the day. You know?
Yeah.
But there's certain things I'll make plans for, like this. Obviously, this was planned.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's like I like a spur of the moment.
Get me when you get me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. As always, please make sure you follow Firsties Pod. That's everywhere, Firsties Pod, to get short clips behind the scenes. And we'll see you next episode. Bye, guys.